word of the Lord from Exodus chapter 3, 13 through 15. But Moses said to God, "If I come to the Israelites and say to them, 'The God of your ancestors has sent me to you,' and they ask, 'What is his name?' what shall I say to them?" God said to Moses, "I am who I am." He said further, "Thus you shall say to the Israelites, 'I am has sent me to you.'" God also said to Moses, "Thus you shall say to the Israelites, 'The Lord, the God of your ancestors, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, has sent me to you. This is my name forever, and this is my title for all generations." The word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. There's an old African parable about an elderly man who has to walk a long ways to get water every day. And he has two jugs that he puts on a beam across his back. And they start out empty. The one on his right is a big, sturdy jug. The one on his left is smaller and cracked at the lip and has a few marks down it and doesn't always hold all the water because it's cracked. And the man walks a long ways to get water every day, and then he fills up with water at the well, and he puts them back on, and he has to tie the left one sturdier, tighter. And then he turns around and he walks all the way back home. And by the time he gets back home, the one on the left barely has any water in it because it's cracked. This little jar talks to the man and says, "What are you using me for? Why me? I'm smaller and I have it cracked on the top lip and you have to tie me down more and all the water, you can only have this much water in me by the time I get back. Why me?" The man says, just wait and see. Wait and see. "Well, who are you that you would use this cracked jar, this weak vessel?" "I am who I am. I will be who I will be." I imagine in our scripture that Moses feels like that cracked, weak, small jar of clay. He says, "Why me? God, who are you? What is your name? Why would you use a small, weak, cracked jar of clay like me, like Moses? Who are you, God? What is your name?" I ask that same question to every youth group I have the privilege of being a youth pastor. There's been a few now, I think 4. I'm trying to remember if it was 4 or 5. I've been a youth pastor for quite some time. And I start out our time together by giving them a blank sheet of white paper and pencils and pens and markers and crayons. And I say, "Who is God?" And I get some amazing answers. God is family, the God of the generations. God is music. God is the universe. God is hope and guidance, a light on my path. God is comfort, like a hug. God is love. You'll find God in your heart. These are just a few that I've collected over the years, some of my favorites. Because this is God to the youth. It's how they experience God, their relationship to God. And Moses asked the same question to God. "What is your name? Who are you that you would send me, Moses, a murderer, a stutterer, this old shepherd, a fugitive? Who are you? What is your name?" Now he already saw God in the burning bush A bush that was on fire but not consumed? A bush that was speaking to him? God is the God of his ancestors. Doesn't he know who God is? And yet he asks God's name. Can't help but wonder if he's doing that to maybe try to take control of the situation. See, in that culture, if you knew something's name, if you gave something a name, you had power over it. You had control. You had responsibility. If I ask God his name, maybe I can get out of this. I don't want to go to Egypt. They're trying to kill me there. I got out of Egypt. So God gives him this great answer that'll just clear everything up, right? I am who I am. Another translation, I will be who I will be. Geez, thanks. Well, that clears up all my questions, God. Thank you very much. I am who I am. Great. And then he spends the next several verses still trying to get out of going where God's calling him. Oh, they won't believe me, God. Oh, sure, that's easy. See that staff you have in your hand? Yeah. Throw it on the ground. Oh my goodness, it's a snake. Wow. That's pretty cool. Okay, well, if they don't believe that, see your hand? Yeah. Put it in your cloak. Okay. Take it out. Oh, it's nasty. Put it back in. Take it back out. Oh, cool. It's healed. That's pretty neat, God. Oh yeah, and Moses, if they don't believe that, then just go to the Nile and the water is going to turn into blood. Whoa. Well, okay, but God, I stutter, God. Yeah, I created you. I know that you stutter, Moses. Come on, man. Your brother Aaron, he speaks really well. He's going to go with you. Problem solved. There you go, bud. I am who I am. I will be who I will be. See, Moses saw himself as sinful, as weak, as not the right guy for the job. He just got out of Egypt. He's safe now. He started a new family. He saw himself as that jar of clay, the crack in it, a jar that wasn't really useful, that couldn't really do much. But God saw who he will be. God sees who we will be. We see weakness, and doubt, and sin. God sees opportunity, transformation, who we will be. God sees us as who we were created to be. See the name Moses. It means deliverer. To draw out. When the Pharaoh's daughter saved Moses, she drew him out of the river and called him Moses. Moses, who could have lived an easy, rich life in the royal court, but chose to stand up for the Jews, to identify with his native people and suffer. Moses, who, yes, killed somebody. Do we remember why he killed the guy? He was standing up for a fellow Hebrew slave. He saved his life. He delivered him from slavery and sin and death. He killed the Egyptian who was beating the Hebrew slave. And then he had his personal exodus out of Egypt. And it's this Moses, this deliverer, this educated Hebrew, raised by the Pharaoh's daughter. It's this Moses that God sees has the potential. And God transforms a stuttering, murdering, sinful, quick to temper doubter into the greatest leader and prophet of the Old Testament. Who will be? How will God transform us? How do we see ourselves versus how God sees us? My name's kind of interesting, I think. Brian Dierolf. You know, what's in a name, right? Well, started looking into it, I guess, in college. You know, those books that you find name meanings in, moms and dads, you all know those that you look through. Oh, I can't name them that sounds like that, and that rhymes with that, and then he'll get picked on. So, and you try to find the right name. So the name Brian, apparently, means a strong, compassionate leader. And I call up my folks when I figured that out, and I said, wow, you guys gave me a lot to live up to. Brian, you know. My mom says, honey, what do you mean? Well, strong, compassionate leader. Oh, hon, we just like the name. Dierolf. Originally Dierolf with the umlaut and an A instead of an O. The wolf. And now God's made me a shepherd. See, the only name that we really need to live into is Christian. It doesn't really matter that Moses was a stutterer, a murderer. It doesn't really matter that I was the awkward, shy kid at the back of the class who wouldn't say anything and limped around. And when I did say something, you probably couldn't understand me. I still can't say spaghetti or specific. I had a speech impediment. But that doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter that Gifford describes himself as just a country boy from Cleveland with the driest jokes I have ever heard in my life. That doesn't really matter. Leo's not here, so I'll pick on him. It doesn't really matter that he's a street kid from Juarez, an all-star soccer player who has more shoes than Lauren does in her closet. It doesn't really matter. It matters who sends us. It doesn't matter who I am. It matters who I am has sent me. It doesn't really matter who we see ourselves as, the mistakes we've made, the weaknesses we think we have. God will be who God will be. We will be who God has created us to be by the grace of Christ and the cross. The only name we have to live up to is Christian. Matters who sends us. When I go to the hospital and do visits, I always get a kick out of it for a little bit, because I'll go to the nurse's station or the check-in and welcome, and first, you know, I go up and they see a young kid, and that's that. Okay, he's going to visit grandma or something. Then I pull out a business card. I'm pastor, and then immediately, oh, let me take you right there. They're in pre-op, but you can go back here, because I am sent by the I am. It doesn't matter that for a split second there they say, he's a pastor. Where's his note to get out of gym class? He should be in high school. It doesn't matter much how cracked and broken and weak the clay jar is. Matters that I am has sent us. We hold this treasure in clay jars so that it is made clear that this extraordinary power does not belong to us, but to God. We are afflicted in every way but not crushed, perplexed but not driven to despair, forsaken but not persecuted, persecuted but not forsaken. Always carrying in us the death of Jesus Christ so that his life may also be present. So that small, cracked jar of clay. The next day, old man said, on the way back, look at your side of the trail. So he got the water at the well, and he filled up the big jar to the brim. He filled up the small jar until he couldn't because of the crack in the lip. He picked it up, and he walked back. And the small jar looked on its side of the trail, and it noticed flowers blooming along the trail. There were none on the other side of the big jar because it didn't have a crack in it. But the small jar of clay would leak out the water every day, and the sun would shine, and flowers would bloom. Transformation. Moses, the stuttering, doubting murderer, his weakness was made strong because I am sent him. Who will you be? Who will God transform us and this congregation? How will we transform the world? Who will we be? And that first activity I do with the youth, they all show me their amazing, outstanding descriptions of who God is to them. And they're all important and valid. And I lift them up, and I give them scriptural backing, and I, motivate them. Yes, that's amazing. And then they ask me, what is your sheet? And I hold up my sheet. Think God is a polar bear in a snowstorm. No, not funny? Okay, moving on. I hold up my sheet, and it's blank. Who will be? I am who I am. I will be who I will be. Just like Moses, I can't possibly fathom what that means. What is God's nature? What is the mystery? I don't know. But God isn't done yet. God will be who God will be. God sees opportunity, transformation. I will be who I will be. You will be who you will be, because we are sent by I am. You're full of opportunity and transformation, and God will always be with us. We just have to live up to our name. Christian, followers of Christ, sent into the world by the great I am to make disciples of Christ for the transformation of the world. So whatever the crack in your jar is, God can use it, just like he did that stuttering, murdering, doubting Moses. Who will we be?